Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Jonathan Harris coming live again. I'm back. Um, Today is April 21st, 2020. I want to give a special shout out to all my stoners. I know that you guys had a awesome holiday yesterday. I personally don't smoke weed, and that's okay. I have a lot of friends that do, and I'm pretty sure that they had a great holiday. And I'm pretty sure that they woke up. A lot of them woke up this morning like, wow, man, whew, that was a good one. I want to send a special shout out to J Ministries. It's located out in Riviera Beach. It's a men's ministry. It's a men's recovery ministry. They do a lot of great things for men that are recovering from, substance abuse, homelessness. They help men get their lives back together, and spiritually as well. I was there back in the early 2000s. I had a spiritual advisor who's no longer with us. May he rest in peace, Brother Bill Clark. He was my spiritual advisor at the time when I was at J Ministry, and they do a lot of great work and help a lot of men out. I also want to send a special shout out to one of my homegirls that's up in Atlanta, Loretta Lolo. She's a person that she grew up right down here in Palm Beach County, and she's a good friend of mine, and she's a very, very smart woman, but she's a very, very funny woman as well. She's hilarious. Maylene, how you doing this morning? How are you this morning? Another one of my good friends. We worked together back in my 401k days, back when I was working at 401k. Another one of my homegirls, Sophia Harrison. She's a very, very good friend of mine. I want to send a shout out to her this morning. And also, my beautiful woman, the beautiful woman that's in my life right now, Tracy Stallworth. Good morning to you as well. I also want to give a special shout out to Ricardo Brittle. He helps a lot of men get their lives back together in regards to recovery and recovering from drugs and alcohol. He does a great job with helping a lot of men. I would give a shout out to his halfway house or in his 3/4 way houses, but I can't quite remember the name right now. Also to Megan Cosgrove. She does a hell of a job with the women locally and in Palm Beach County, as well as women across the nation. I mean that need help. She has a awesome, beautifully ran halfway houses and 3/4 houses that help a lot of women get their lives back together. So I definitely want to give a special shout out to her, Megan Cosgrove. She does a wonderful job, at Roseway halfway houses, helping a lot of women really get their lives together. I also want to give a shout out to DAF. DAF is a county-run recovery facility that helps a lot of men get their lives together, and a lot of women get their lives together, as well as Rico. Rico does helps a lot of people in the Delray Beach area get their lives together. Harmony House is another one, in Delray Beach. Harmony helps a lot of men and women get their lives together. So I want to just give a shout out to those people, to those organizations, to those facilities that really extend a hand in helping people get their lives back together. But This morning I kind of wanted to come, and I didn't necessarily have a topic. I kind of wanted to lighten it up a little bit. It's Tuesday, you know. Another thing, I'm on here now, but there will come a time where you guys might not see me in the mornings because I'll probably be back at work. And I know for some of you, you're probably saying, yes, good. Yeah, I see that bald head dude. There was a guy that commented on my live, I think yesterday. He said, oh man, get your bald head ass off live. So, yeah, there's going to come a time where I'm not going to be able to be on live in the mornings, and I'll be back at work. But, I see my man, Jabron James. I see Swanson Williams is joined in, has chimed in. Danelia Jean Vargas has chimed in. Good morning to all of you people. Good morning to Swanson. A guy that we grew up back in the day together, man, and we had a back in the day, we were a little rough around the edges, but we've grown up now, and that's a good thing. Again, this morning, I don't really necessarily, have a topic. Real quick, I also want to give a shout out to Naeem. He's a guy that I met since I moved to Delray. And he's doing a great job with helping, men and women get their lives back together. So I also want to give him a shout out. Joe McClendon, he's a guy that's well versed in what we do as far as a recovery community in the literature. The list really goes on and on. People like Kenny Silver, phenomenal, helped me tremendously. So I want to give a shout out to those people. But the thing is, again, I don't necessarily really have a topic this morning, but I kind of wanted to lighten it up a little bit, and just kind of just free flow and really talk about, sports teams. I know that for the fellas, for all the fellas out there, I want to talk kind of a little bit about sports. We've been in this. A lot of us have been quarantined. A lot of us have been busy, especially the essential workers. I definitely want to give a shout out to those people that are still working, the people that are working in the hospitals, the people that are working in the grocery stores, the people that are still, picking the garbage up, the police officers, the people that are still working, the people in the recovery field that still are going to work to make sure that the people that are addicts and alcoholics have somewhere to go. And I want to give a shout out to those people. There's one other person that I thought about that I really want to give a shout out to as well. Tia Thomas. She's still working. I spoke with her last night. She's still working. And those people, that she works in the hospital at St. Mary's, and those people are, help keeping this country going. And that's a beautiful thing. I see another great friend of mine, one of the great musician, Michael Rivers, has chimed in. He's a guy that I grew up with as well, from the Westwood expansion, located right off of Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard. These are some of the friends, some of the people that I grew up with, man. And this guy's a phenomenal musician. A lot of people might not know that about Michael, but, Mike's we call him Riv. He's a hell of a musician, man. And, we grew up doing those types of things, music, the sports. We see back when we grew up, it wasn't so much as, the electronical or computer age, with the games and we made games. I mean, we were the game. When kids sit in the house and they're playing their PS4s or whatever it is they have now, we were the people that were in the games when we grew up, man. We were Barry. We was Barry Sanders. We was, these guys on the football, on these games, man. We created, and we're probably generation is probably the generation that a lot of these games were really made after, man, because a lot of the things that they do in these video games, we were actually doing them and we were living those things. But I wanted to kind of go back to the sports teams. You know, growing up, and people that really know me know that I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler fan, die hard. Die hard. That's been my team since the '70's. That's my first team. I'd like to say that I'm a sports fan first, but when it comes to my actual football team, pro football team, it's the Steelers, hands down. That's my team. And how I began, and I kind of want to hear from you guys how I began, really how I became a Steelers fan, how I became a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And I'll tell you a little short story. I was probably in my pre-teens, and God rest her soul, my oldest sister, she was dating a young man at the time. I'll never forget, his name was Dale Pertee. And my sister was quite a few years older than I was, and so was the young man she was dating at the time. And I'll never forget, he was a Pittsburgh Steeler fan. And by him at the time, I'm assuming that the fact that I didn't have a father figure, and at the time she was dating this guy and they were a few years older than I was, and I kind of wanted to, when we grew up, we respected the older guys, man. We kind of wanted to, we wanted to, not only did we respect those guys, but we wanted to, make those guys proud. We wanted to be like those guys. When we were growing up, like, we weren't young guys that were saying, "Oh, you can't tell me nothing, and screw you, and I ain't listening to nothing you gotta say." When we were growing up, man, we looked at the older guys and we were like, "Man, if I could shoot a jump shot like that," or "Man, if I could, get the girls the way he got the girls," or I had the nice hairstyle, or whatever it was. That we emulated those guys. We wanted to be like those guys. And he liked the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he used to come over to my house Monday Night Football. And when I first got introduced to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think Terry Bradshaw was the quarterback. We had Terry Bradshaw was the quarterback. We had Len Swan. We had John Taylor. We had L.C. Greenwood, Mean Joe Green, Mel Blount, Franco Harris, and the list goes on and on. And I can remember the reason that I wanted to be a Steelers fan is because he was a Steelers fan, and that was something that I enjoyed doing as a young guy, as a preteen, with an older guy. We'd sit there and he'd be cheering on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that made me want to cheer on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And ever since then, that's been my team. That was my experience with becoming a football fan as a whole. I used to spend that time with this guy, and he was a diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and I became a diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And those are the kind of things that we did when I was growing up. We looked at the older guys, man, and we really looked up to the older guys back when I was growing up. We were like, it's almost like excuse me, it was almost like they were the superstars, man. We had guys like, we had a guy in my neighborhood, Lassie Tank, man. This guy was phenomenal on the basketball court, man. I've never seen a guy that could shoot from any point on the basketball court, man. This guy was just amazing. Growing up in my time, we had guys that were just phenomenal athletes. I see Troy DeGregory has chimed in. What's up, Troy? Troy is another guy, man, that growing up, Troy was a very, very good friend of mine, and we hung out a lot, man, and Troy was just like everybody else, a great athlete. Troy and I dibbled and dabbled out in the music together, and But Troy was always a. It's funny. The funny thing about Troy is Troy was all, and I don't think a lot of people know this because I'd be at Winnie house, his mom. I call her Winnie. I'd be at her house, and I'd go to her house, and Troy always had volumes and volumes of books. Man, he was a reader. He was a studier. He'd be reading stuff. And he kind of keeps me today educated on a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to the black community or black people as a whole. Troy is one of those guys, man. He's an avid reader, man. He stays on point. Mark Jones, good morning. I see you chimed in. Good morning to you, sir. But yeah, that's kind of how we grew up, man. Back when I was growing up, we looked up to the older guys, and man, they were like superheroes, man. They were like the guys that we wanted to be. We wanted to be like those guys, and I was always a small guy, but I always wanted to be really good at anything that I did. I was very competitive. So I was the young guy that when it came to playing sports, I played with the older guys. I wanted to be the best, because my age group, we in my neighborhood, we lived on the lake. It's Clear Lake, but it goes into Lake Okeechobee. Good morning, Howard Hill. I see you've chimed in. And back in the day, man, when we grew up on the lake. So when I'd play, I see Gotti Melvin has chimed in. Is it Quazo or Quizo Gotti Melvin? Good morning. Yeah, we had a lake that we'd play on, and it was in my neighborhood, and that's where I played with the younger guys for the most part. Football, and we and I can remember being a Steelers fan. And back in the day, now we have Heinz Field, but back in the day we had Three River Stadium, and I can remember being on that lake, and I imagined that lake was, and I used to call it One River Stadium. We played back in those days, and that's where I played with most of the guys that were my age group, or either in Westwood Elementary. We had a big field before it became the extravagant elementary school that it is today. Back in our day, it was an open school, and we could go to the basketball court. We could go to the football field. We had a makeshift football field, but it was a big field. We had a baseball area. In my neighborhood, I'll never forget, we had by the one of the fields, because Westwood, the elementary school, it was open, so we had a lot of field, and we had one part of it that was like a baseball field, and I can remember we played baseball, man, on that field, and there were. Listen, my childhood was so cool. I mean, it was so much fun. It was just so many things to do. I can remember that we had 3 huge trees by the baseball field, located right off of 9th Street in the Westwood expansion, and there were 3 huge trees. I want to say 3. It may have been 2, but I want to say 3 huge trees. And those trees kept an ebb and flow of, a nice breeze. It was a continual breeze, man, and guys would go and hang out under that tree, and we'd smoke our little weed, we'd talk shit about the women and tell lies and all that jazz, under those trees, man, and guys would come and shine their cars up and wash their cars and just hang out, man, under those trees, man, for hours. And then because the location of the school, then on the side, that was the back side of the elementary. And then on the front side of the elementary, we had what was Gulf Avenue. And at that time, there's 2 different sides of my neighborhood. The neighborhood that I grew up in, we have what you'd consider the west side, which was one side of the canal. And then we had what you'd probably consider the east side, which was there was a canal that ran through the center of my neighborhood, and the east side was on the other side of that canal. But right on the front of the elementary school, right off of Gulf Avenue, you could actually pull into the front of the school. And a lot of guys would pull into the front of the school and clean their cars, smoke their little weed, sell their little weed, or whatever the case may be. And we'd all just hang out, man. It was always something to do when I grew up, man. That neighborhood, man, has so much history when it comes to my me being raised, man. It was just a beautiful time. It was a beautiful thing, man. And the thing is that I'm not saying that these times can't be beautiful as well, but they can. It has a lot to do with, what the kids are, willing to experience, and what the adults, a lot of us adults, man, we got to get these kids out, man, get them active. I can remember growing up in West Palm Beach, and we had I see Colin Lois chimed in. Good morning, Colin. Good to see you've chimed in. And I can remember growing up, we had in West Palm Beach, we had I want to say, I might miss some, but I know we had the Westwood expansion. We had Pleasant City. We had the projects off of 7th Street, which we call the White House. That's always going to be White House. We had the old project, which was off of 15th Street. We had the whole entire neighborhood from 15th Street to 25th Street, that whole area. We had the Gaines Park side, which was near my neighborhood in the Westwood expansion. And what I can tell you, man, there were phenomenal athletes that came from all of those areas, man. Phenomenal athletes. And what I can tell you is that it was just like, and the funny thing about it is, man, and looking back, I had an older brother, they used to call him Smoke, and he was a terrorizer, man. And I was probably the direct opposite of him, because I was more of a mama's boy, up under my mom's rule of thumb. But I can remember growing up, man, and just going from neighborhood to neighborhood, man. Like you pretty much had to be like pretty tough, like a beast. I see Alonzo's chimed in. Alonzo's another good friend of mine I grew up with, man, was a phenomenal athlete from the Westwood expansion. A lot of people might not remember Todd. We used to call him Todd. A lot of people might not remember, Alonzo back in his day, but man, he was a beast on the football field as well, man. And he's up there in Valdosta doing a heck of a job, helping, with his ministry, with guys getting, reintroduced and back into society, man, and getting their lives together. He's doing a hell of a job up there. I'd like to give a shout out to him up there in Valdosta, Georgia. But back to what I was talking about. When we grew up, man, you had to have some balls, man, to go from neighborhood to neighborhood, man, because, back then the guys protected their neighborhoods. They protected their neighborhoods, man. I see my nephew, he's chimed in, Abdullah Hakeem. I know him as Pat, but I respect, his religion and his name, and he's Abdullah, and that's what I call him. And I want to give a shout out to him as well. He drives trucks nationwide across the country, and he's one of the essential workers that's out doing a phenomenal job, driving and carrying goods for this country, man. Thank God for guys like him that are still working and that are still carrying goods across the nation, man, for us, so that we can survive, man. And I would just want to give a shout out to him. He's doing a great job. And I watched him. Now, the funny thing about my nephew is I watched my nephew go from a boy to an adolescent and grow into a man. And today I can honestly say that I'm proud of my nephew, and today he's a man. He's a man's man today. And I'm really proud of the work that he's doing and the things that he does. But I want to go back to growing up, man. You had to have balls. You had to be tough to go from neighborhood to neighborhood, man, because guys protected their neighborhoods, man. And that, but in and as scary as it was when I was growing up, and as fearful as I was when I was growing up, I never really showed that fear, because I knew that, man, you can't go over there. You don't want to go to the White House with that fear, man, because if they know you got that fear in them, man, you're dead. You're done. You don't want to go to Pleasant City and have that fear. You're dead. You're done. But looking back, man, those experiences, man, were fun, because we back then it wasn't about gunplay, it wasn't about who we could kill, and it wasn't about destroy. Like, you had to fight, and we fought. And then looking back, that was our development into manhood, man. You had to throw some hands. Going into different neighborhoods, man, going into the old project off of 15th Street. It's no longer there. They tore it down, but that we used to call that, and I know they have one in Miami, which is called a Poke and Bean, but that was our neighborhood. That was our project that we call a Poke and Bean, located right off of 15th and Tamron. We call that the Poke and Bean. I can remember going, back in the day, man, we used to have dances, and I can remember going to the dances, which they would hold those dances at Roosevelt Junior High, which is, I believe, a service center or some type of school right now, and we'd also have those dances at Gaines Park, man, and we had, shout out to Blue Front Barbecue, man, back in the day. We had Mr. Norris Nelson. He was a neighbor. He was one of my neighbors, man. He had a very successful barbecue business. And it was located right off of 15th and Tamron. And as a kid, man, the ribs were so good. And we talk, my friends and I, when we get together, we talk about it all the time, man. The ribs were so good because, back when we were kids, we'd go and we go to the dances, and we just have enough money to get one rib sandwich. And whoever put in the most money, of course, would get the meat. And, the other guys, we'd split the bread or whatever the case may be. But the bread was so good. The bread was so good. The bread was almost like meat. If you got a slice of the bread, you were happy. But I brought up the dance thing was because all of these neighborhoods, you'd have to run into a lot of those guys when you went to the dance, man. And if you were a fearful guy, man, which I was, but I couldn't let those guys know that, I had fear. You know what I'm saying? I see another good friend of mine, Melvin Elliott chimed in. Good morning to you, Melvin. That's another guy, man. We all we're a little rough around the edges growing up, but I watched Melvin totally grow into a man. He's a man's man today. He works a good job, man. He lives the life. He's doing the deal. And if anybody knows Melvin the way I know Melvin, and I won't go into that, but if you know Melvin the way I know Melvin, you know that he's come a long way and has developed into a respectable a man that, not that, we never had respect for Melvin, but, today we have a different level and a different sort of respect today. But again, I want to go back to, you had to be tough, man, because you run into a lot of those same guys from the different neighborhoods at the dance. And, you couldn't show fear, because if you showed fear, man, I'm telling you, you were done. Man, those guys from those different neighborhoods, and later on, they used to have dances in Pleasant City at the gym, man. And this is just West Palm Beach area. See, I'm going to get into Riviera in a minute, which is if you're from Palm Beach County, you know that we call Riviera the Raw. Back at one time, we used to call it Dub City. Some people call it Uptown. Some people call it West Palm Beach Downtown. But I'm going to get into Riviera in a little bit. But so you had to be tough, man. Even to go to the dance, because you're going to run into a lot of those guys from the different neighborhoods at that dance. In the neighborhood I came from, man, they could, Palm Beach County. It was a neighborhood that I grew up in that really was mostly black professionals, people that worked hard, people that took. So, but my neighbor, so we were, in a sense, we were considered a little bit more fortunate than others. But the thing is that along with that came, you guys are soft. You know what I mean? You guys are soft. So when we went to the different neighborhoods, man, most of my homeboys, man, when I was in Pleasant City or if I were at the dance at 15th Street, there were select few of us that stuck together, but there were some of the guys that ran, man. I was like, I looked around and these guys want to jump me, man. And I look around and these dudes done ran on me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm here by myself. They gonna kill me. Guys like, if you're from Pleasant City, I know you guys remember David Roosevelt, man. David Roosevelt, man, was a fighting dude, man. I mean, would knock you out. JB, man, from Pleasant City. These are guys that were my age. There's a whole slew of guys from Pleasant City, but these were the guys that were my age and my era, man. And man, these guys could fight. You had to bring the pain. You had to come with it, man. I'm sure Donald Cleveland, knows the guys that I'm talking about, man. I see Carolyn Miss Wink Atwell has chimed in. Good morning to you as well. But again, but that experience, man, of going to those dances, it was fun. If you want to, in comparison to what has become, the events and the way that these young people live today, man, we had fun, man. That shit was fun. Even if you ran into one of the guys you just had a fight with a week ago or whatever, and you knew you were going to run into him at the dance, man, as young guys, we were always chasing the women. We were always chasing the girls, man. And it's funny because, my mom would always make sure that I had a few extra dollars. And so I'd be, one of the guys that could actually go to, we also had a spot on 15th and Tamarind called Alzo's. And because back then, one other thing I want to address, back then we didn't have a lot of Habib stores. We didn't have a lot of foreigners owning stores, not in our community. We had black-owned businesses in West Palm Beach. I know that up north there's still a lot of black-owned businesses, but down here in West Palm Beach, we had a lot of black-owned businesses. And we go to Alzo's, man, and we go out there with our little girlfriends. We were in junior high school, man. We'd go in Alzo's with our little girlfriends. And I was one of the guys that could afford to, buy a little girl, one of my little girlfriends, some Niolators or whatever candy she wanted. And that was huge because as kids, we were broke, man. We didn't have jobs. We didn't have money, man. Some kids had a little hustle. They go to school and sell Now-Laters at school and things like that, and keep a little extra dollars in their pocket, or sell mangoes or sell oranges, or or whatever kind of little hustle, man. Or they may have had a uncle that may have been in the drug trade that gave them some money, whatever the case may be. But for the most part, we didn't have a bunch of money, man. And it didn't take a bunch of money back then. But I was one of the guys that be able to buy my girlfriend some little Now-Laters or whatever kind of candy or snack at Alzo's, man. And Alzo's was another, it was historical, man. It was beautiful. But yeah, so, but those things were fun, man. And then I want to go from, even from West Palm Beach downtown to Riviera, man. Back in the day, I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of guys that I considered friends out in Riviera. Although, back then, downtown and uptown, Riviera, the Raw, man. See, that was another thing we had. See, you had to be a tough guy in downtown amongst your own neighborhoods, and then now you have to deal with the fact that, oh my God, I gotta go out to the Raw. Shit. Oh my God, I have to go out to the Raw. And let me tell you something. Back in my day, bro, I don't care what any cat from downtown say. I don't care how tough they were. I don't care how gangster they were. But man, if you were anything like me, man, and which most of us was, When you knew you had to go out to the Raw, you were saying to yourself, "Oh shit, here we go." God, now I don't want to go out there, but I got a little girl out there. I got a little girlfriend, man, out there in the Raw, and I want to see her, man. And I can remember back when I was 12 years old, my mom bought me a motorcycle, and I could ride that motorcycle. It was an Enduro, so it had blinkers and lights and all that, so I could ride my motorcycle wherever. And I used to ride it out to. I can remember going out to see back in my day, the Raw. You know, they had neighborhoods like they had Stony Brook, they had Ivy Green. You know, you had Monroe Heights. You had Federal Gardens. Um, you know, you had the neighborhood that was over by Suncoast, where you had Wells Gym. That was one of the gyms. I see Joe G is tuned in, has chimed in. What's up, Joe? Joe's one of my buddies, man. Rest in peace, Tiger Lou, man. He knew Tiger Lou, and that's what Joe and I had in common. The fact that, you know, we had a mutual friend in Tiger Lou, and if anybody's from West Palm Beach, and if you know Tiger Lou, you knew that was my dude. He was a funny dude, but man, he was, you know, he was a hustler, and he had a lot of chicks, man, and the chicks, he just had a way about himself. And if you know Tiger Lou, you know that. I see Larry Douglas has chimed in as well. Good morning, Larry. But here's the thing. When you were from downtown, you know you had to go out to the Raw. And see, we're not even going to talk about, at least on this segment, Boynton and Delray, you know. But, you know, you knew you had to go out to Riviera, man. You knew you had to go out to the Raw, and you were like, oh my God, damn. And I can remember, man, riding my motorcycle out to Stony Brook. And see, back in the day, there was a back way you used to come into Stony Brook. So, and I'd come the back way. I'd come the back way into the Brooks. And that's how I had to travel. A lot of times, man, we had to sneak. We had to sneak into the Raw. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, shit, but, you know, because, you know, them dudes was waiting on you. You know, they was waiting. But again, man, it was all fun, man. I mean, you know, we had, you know, like they had dances, down in West Palm at Roosevelt Junior High, the gym, and Gaines Park Gym. You know, man, they had dances in Riviera, man. So you can imagine being from downtown and going to the dance and thinking that you're going to run into your dude or your enemy or whatever you want to call it, you know, at that dance in West Palm. Now just imagine, you know, because see, I was one of those dudes, man. I had girls, I had women everywhere, man. I had girls everywhere. You know what I mean? I was never the toughest gangster, or you know, I'd stand up for myself, but I was never considered, you know, the toughest gangster, the badass, or any of that. But I was considered a player. You know what I mean? Like, I did have my share of women. I had my share of girls, man. And what I can tell you is that if I didn't intimidate you with force, I intimidated you with your woman. Because I'm pretty sure, you know, that cat Jonathan Harris from Westwood, man, his name is ringing when it comes to the women. And so I had girlfriends. I had little girlfriends out there in the Raw, man. But we go to the dances at Tate Gym and Wells Gym. And we were and again, if you think about being from West Palm Beach and how it was going from neighborhood to neighborhood, now we've gone to a whole nother town. You know, you're in a whole nother town, man, and you want to go to you definitely want to go to the dance because you want to see your little girlfriends at the different schools. You know, and again, I did have some homeboys out in the Raw, you know, that I chopped it up with. So, you know, guys like, you know, Sam Kennedy and, you know, Vale and Cassius, you know, Heel and Might, Swanson. You know, there were guys that, and if I didn't know them, you know, George Whitaker, if I didn't know these guys personally, but, you know, these guys were the dudes in that you know, area, in that neighborhood. You know, and you knew of them, you know, so, you know, but when you went out to the Raw, And some of those guys were my alliance, man. Like this was my pass. Cause you pretty much almost had to have a pass, man, to go into these neighborhoods. You had to have a pass, you know. I see my man Django Freeman has chimed in. Good morning to you, my brother. Assalamu alaikum. To you, Joe. Bonjour. But again, man, so I had an alliance with some of these guys, man, that gave me a pass to hang out sometimes out there in Rivera, man. And back then we weren't doing a lot of shooting, but we were doing some hell of a fighting, man. We were doing some hell of a fighting, man. It was going down. You know what I mean? And either you were going to get jumped. It wasn't no such thing. There was no such thing as 1-on-1, man. It just wasn't happening. If you went into that area and you were stupid enough to be by yourself, man, you were going to get jumped. That's just the bottom line. But man, I can tell you, man, we had a lot of fun back then, and we enjoyed. For the most part, man, we enjoyed life. You might have got your ass kicked, but you live to see another day. You see those same guys through the years, and it's so crazy. It is so funny that with maturity and with life, a lot of those guys are some of my best friends, or some really good friends today. A lot of the guys from the White House, Terry Hudson and Donut and my boy. A lot of people forget about my boy. I ain't forgot about my boy, because he was one of the dudes that, man, we were, I guess they considered us pretty boys, if you want to call it that. And we were and that's another reason why I had all the women, because I was with the crew of people that we used to like to dress. And and R.I.P. And I want to give a shout out to my boy Corey Brown, man. Corey Brown was one of my really good friends from the White House. Back in the day, man, we had guys like Ronnie Felder from Rivera. He was a dressing dude, and Greg DeBose and Shipman and Andre Davis and Lendrick Napier. We had guys, in the high school at North Shore. Daryl. We had I can't even think of these guys right now, but another guy, O.C. Toombs. I know. Hey, I see Naeem has chimed in. I mentioned Naeem earlier, man. He was doing a great job in the recovery area, helping a lot of men and women get their lives back on track. What's up, Naeem? Good morning. And again, we were pretty boy guys, man. We had some gang, but see, I was always connected to some gangster dudes too. Some gangster dudes. Like I was with the pretty boy crew, but I had some gangster cats down with me too, man. And Corey Brown, it's another guy. R.I.P. man, O.C. Toombs, man. He was another guy that when I went to North Shore. See, because, and that's even with going from different school to school, because we didn't have this mass group of schools that they have now in Palm Beach County, man. We had Suncoast, Palm Beach Gardens, Twin Lakes, Santa Lucia's, Lake Worth High, Atlantic High. There was no Wellington High School or Royal Palm High School back in those days. And you had to have a pass to go bro, you better know somebody when you go to these schools. You ain't just showing up. You ain't just showing up to Suncoast saying, "Oh yeah, man, I'm chilling, and I've come up here to see some chick at Suncoast." Man, you better know somebody. See, I knew at every school. I had an alliance at every school, because again, I had girls at every school in Palm Beach County. Every school you could possibly name, I had a girl. I at least had no less than 2 girls at every school. And you had to have an alliance with somebody at that school, man. But it was again, man, back then growing up, it was fun, man. We enjoyed it, man. We had a good time, man. We didn't have a whole bunch of guys that were killed violently or any of that stuff. But like I said, man, you had to have some hands. You had to be, boy. If you couldn't fight, man, you was in trouble. one of my boys from the White House, back in the day, we used to call him Willie Man, man. Willie Man, shoot, Willie Man was gonna trust me. He was gonna get the business. Willie Man had some hands, man. You know, it's just, man, remembering all those guys. You know, Bruce Allison. All of those guys, man. Today, these are guys that are good friends of mine. You know, SA the DJ. You know, these guys are good friends of mine to this day. There was a lot of guys, man, that I grew up with, man, and today as men, man, we've all grown into men, and we're all doing it, making an effort to do the deal today as men, and today, man, a lot of those guys, man, we chop it up regularly, man, and some of those guys are, some of my really good friends today. And it's beautiful, guys, like, I tell you what, like, they may have considered Westwood soft, or mostly pretty boys, but we had some thoroughbreds too. We had some gangsters too, man. Guys like Gus Jones, man. Gus held it down, man. Guys like Gus Jones, my big brother Smoke, man. Steve Knight. We had some guys that again, I know, I can't remember all of those guys right now, but yeah, we had some guys to really, hold it down, man. One of my best friends, who was a hell of an athlete, man, Tyrone Thomas, man. Our birthdays are a day apart. He's a very good friend of mine to this day. I want to give a shout out to him wherever he may be. Isaac Lawrence and Aaron Shallow, those guys were very good friends of mine growing up. And I want to give a shout out to those guys wherever they are, as well as David Bowles was a very good friend of mine. The Bowles family was a very good friends of mine growing up. These are we just had fun, man. We had a lot of fun. And today, man, I don't know, I went back down memory lane, and that's kind of where my mind was. I know I forgot a lot. I started out smoking a lot of weed. That's why I had to give a shout out to all my stoners in the very beginning. I had to give them a shout out for their holiday yesterday, because I was a guy that I started out, I smoked a lot of weed, man, because we had access to weed like you can't even imagine. Back when I was growing up, and I didn't have to buy weed, man, and I smoked a lot of weed, so my brain is pretty much fried. Let alone doing a lot of cocaine as well. So my brain's fried. Drinking a lot of alcohol too. But we had a great time, man. We had a great time growing up, and in my neighborhood, of course, it isn't the same neighborhood that it was when I was growing up, but I can tell you that, man, we had a great time, and we protected the boundaries and of the Westwood as well. Yeah, even though we might have been soft for pretty boys when we went out wherever, but you just weren't going to come over there either with that nonsense. Y'all know, if y'all honest, y'all know, y'all know. There was a neighborhood that I missed that growing up, man, that had an impact on my life as well, and it was the Plaza, man, the Plaza neighborhood. We had so much fun, and I posted this the other day that when by the time we got old enough to go to high school and play sports in high school, that was fun, because the competition level, Sandlot was just, oh my God, we growing up, man, we played football. We, from the games part side, we had got like Kelsey and D. Those were guys that came and played. T. Roy that came over to our side and played sports, man. But you know, you were pretty. If you played Sandlot, and I'm gonna go back to the Plaza because we used to have once a year. We played sports year round, man. But once a year we had was what was called the Turkey Bowl. We had the Turkey Bowl, and we'd have the Turkey Bowl right there in Westwood Elementary Field, and guys would come from the Plaza, and it'd be the Westwood expansion against the Plaza or whatever neighborhood, and we'd have the Turkey Bowl, you know. And that's the thing. And the funny thing about us playing sports is that don't think you got to pass because you were good in sports. No, if you were still good in sports and you went into that neighborhood, man, you better have an ally in that neighborhood. I don't care if you could dunk, if you could throw a football a mile away, you better have an ally in that neighborhood, bro, if you went into that neighborhood to play. Because I played basketball and played a lot of football. And I played basketball in practically every neighborhood in Palm Beach County, man. But I can tell you that, man, I had an ally in every single one of those neighborhoods, man. Because if you didn't, they didn't care because you were good in basketball. What you think, you gonna wear ass with them because you play basketball good? Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. No, you better have an ally in that neighborhood. But we had a lot of fun, man, and I just took a trip down memory lane, and that's kind of like, I didn't really have any subject matter today, which I kind of do, but I kind of wanted to lighten it up a little bit, man. And peace to all, my boys that we've grown up and we're cool today, and we chop it up today. A lot of those guys are smart guys. We're smart guys then. We were just knuckleheads. Again, to the recovery community, man, the people that are, Naeem, Megan Cosgrove, Ricardo, Rico, DAF. Oh God, I'm having a brain fart again. But you guys in Delray Beach, in the recovery community, you know who I'm talking about. Harmony, Adam Rivera, J Ministry, the places in Boynton, they're helping. I can't even think of the name right now. They're helping a lot of people recover. Shouts out to those people, man. And to all of you essential workers that are keeping this country, that are holding it down for this country. Shouts out to you, man. It's funny, a lady that's a nurse, she posted a post on Facebook last night that I read, and it was a post that it got my attention. And she posted a post of an essential worker who was in the hospital field, who was a nurse. And the post was, she was standing, the nurse was positioned on one side of the screen or one side of the post. And then on the other side of the post, there were a bunch of hands reaching out. And in that lady's back were thousands of or hundreds of scissors in her back, like knives in her back, like her being stabbed in the back as an essential worker. And what the post was about, the beach is opening up, the different things that are opening up in this pandemic. And she was saying that, and even the people that are asking that the country be opened up prematurely or too soon. The picture was the knives in the back of that essential worker were, in her mind, she was saying that, how dare you? Like, that's like a stab in the back. Like, we're working our ass off to try to keep people healthy and bring this thing down some. But at the same time, we feel like we're being just stabbed in the back by society. Like saying, screw the work that you're doing. We want to open up to get worse. But I don't want to get too serious into that this morning. But again, I went down memory lane, man, and it was great, man. Just some of the memories of some of the guys that I knew, and how we had fun, man. How it was just fun. I see This guy is a guy on Facebook that I have a lot of respect for his posts and a lot of the things that he's doing on Facebook. Gotti Dante, what's up, bro? Good morning to you. He's a guy that I read a lot of his posts, man. And he's a sharp dude. He's a smart guy, and he has a lot of great. He has a lot of humorous posts, but he has a lot of smart posts as well. Shout out to my Twin Lakes Rams, man, the high school that I attended. Now people say, well, Jonathan, wait a minute, you ain't even graduated. But forget that. That's my high school, and that's the high school that I attended. Shout out to Twin Lakes Rams. Go Rams forever. Now it's Palm Beach Lakes, but Twin Lakes Rams. Go Rams. Shout out to Twin Lakes Rams, my high school, man, and all my Ramettes and Rams. Shout out to you guys, man. You know who you are. Wesley Dorsey's constantly on Facebook. He's the funny guy. He on Facebook. To all my classmates, man, shout out to you, man. A lot of you guys are successful and doing wonderful. And RIP to the ones that are no longer with us. But again, I just went down I wanted to go down memory lane. I appreciate you guys tuning in, chiming in, and thanks for letting me share this morning.